Alright, so this part of the tutorial will just be a screen capture, and we're going to use Photoshop here to process the stills that were photographed in the studio to make an HDR image. We're going to need to do this for each series that we took. Really, it's just a built-in feature of Photoshop. We'll go to the File menu. Under Automate, we'll go to Merge to HDR Pro. And what this will do is give us the opportunity to take a set of photos and create a single high dynamic range HDR image from it. So we're going to use files and just go browse. And so the first set of photos are this set of 5 photos here. And each different angle, each different lighting setup that we did throughout the day is available here to us. So we're just going to start with this first set of 5. I think this is one particular lighting setup, and we can select all 5 of those photos just holding the Shift key, select them and say OK, and then they're listed here. These are the original raw files straight out of the camera, and we'll leave this attempt to automatically align because we shot with a tripod, which you always want to do, by the way. We shouldn't have too much work there for the alignment and should come together nicely. So we'll say OK. And then you'll just watch as Photoshop loads in each of the images. It's going to actually import them one at a time into layers of a single image. And once that's finished, we'll get another dialog box that shows us what Photoshop is doing in terms of combining all of these different exposure levels into a single lined up image that has all of those exposures put together. Ta-da, there we go. So this is the Merge to HDR Pro window in Photoshop. By default, it's trying to let you create some kind of artistic image. So you can actually adjust how it's processing the light. Really, this is if you want to take these HDR images of a landscape and make them into like this nice painterly image where dark areas are bright and bright areas are visible. We don't want that. We actually want the raw data. When you combine all of these images together, there's actually at least a full 32 bits of information available, and we want all of it. So really, up here in the upper right hand corner of the window, we just want to change the mode to 32-bit, and now we have all of that data. It looks kind of grayish because we've kind of crushed all of those color values and we're displaying it on an 8-bit screen. But this is the data that we want, the 32-bit data. And we don't want to do any kind of toning, so we can uncheck toning. And essentially we'll have the actual data from all these 5 images compiled into a single 32-bit image. So we say OK to that. Photoshop does all its mathematics. And we end up with this single image. And if we go up to image mode, it should be, yep, 32-bit RGB. So we just need to save this as an HDR image. So we'll save as. And instead of a Photoshop, we're actually going to go to, you can use EXR, that's a good one, or you can go to Radiance HDR. Since most of our work in visual effects these days is done in EXR, we'll just go ahead and save in that format. This format saves all that 32-bit data, and we'll just go ahead and create our own photo folder for HDR images. And we'll name this was a lighting setup. I think this was lights 3, 4, and 5 were turned on. So we'll just say lights 3, 4, 5. And this was the front angle, so we'll just call it front. And the .exr will get added to that and save. And we can just go ahead and say no compression. Let's just use all the data. Saves it out. And that's it. So the thing is, to finish the HDR setup for this one set of lights, we need the other direction. So we'll just repeat this. It's a different set of images. So we'll go into File, Automate, and again, Merge to HDR Pro. In this set of files, we need to go back into our raw photos, and it's the other angle. So in this case, for that same lighting setup, it was photos starting at 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. So another 5 images. This is the same lights were turned on. Lights numbers 3, 4, and 5 in our studio. Just double checking my notes. I know you can't see me doing that, but that works. Okay, so I'll import those and we'll attempt the align up. We'll say okay. So this is the same set of lights are on, numbers 3, 4, and 5. Those are the only lights on, but now we're taking the photograph from a different angle. Now the nice thing is that Photoshop is using the data stored in the raw files, and it's recognizing the exact shutter speed that was used for each one of these images. And it uses that in its mathematic calculation. So here is our HDR image. By default, it just saved our last set, so 32-bit. We're not going to do any tone adjustments, so we'll just say OK to that. And once that's finished processing, we'll save this out to another EXR file. And in the same folder, HDR images, we'll set our file type to EXR. I'm just clicking the original file and just changing the word front to side. And save. So no compression. That's it. That's the entire Photoshop portion. And so in the next tutorial, we'll get into NUKE and how we can process these HDR images and convert them into spherical images. Until next time, have fun.